she came to a healthier stage and took control of her own life, right, of her own career, and got even to the point where she started saying, okay, I am ready to get back out there with my business. I know how I'm going to approach it this time. So she recharged and she replenished and she was ready to get back, and which was great and beautiful, right? um Yes. So when I went to the ayahuasca and I came back, I knew I needed to let go of my marriage, right? So the first objective, right, the first resistance, I already knew what I needed to focus on, which was to train John to build the relationship with our daughter Anne, to train him to be a single dad, because that was the biggest resistance, right? So in setting that up, right? Because when I went for the ayahuasca, Anne was about 3.5 or 4-ish, between 3 and 4. And when I filed for divorce, she was 7, right? And I'll get into um, the those age energies and influence with children later on, right? Yeah. So in 2019, when John and I got into this fight where he wrestled me to the floor and wanted me to tap out, this guy, yeah, it's like you can make this shit up. So when he did that, right, I had to navigate all of these things, and I didn't even get into Kali yet. I will get into all of those things, right? And my dad, because yes, it's coming. Um, so in 2019, right, as I came to this understanding with John that I can sleep with another man, right? We had this agreement, and he will set up a session with a therapist. And I reached out to Derek in 2020, right? And that's when COVID hit. So in May 2020, what happened is when John found my messages with Derek, right? He knew I was interacting with Derek. So he downloaded all my messages with Derek and translated them in English, because we interacted in French. Um, yeah, so when he downloaded everything, I expressed to him that I have nothing to hide. Him and I had an agreement, and when I made this agreement with him, I told him I would not tell him anything until after the fact. Until after I sleep with the man, I will tell him. I will not tell him anything. That was our agreement. So when he found the text and everything, and he was like, you cheating on me, I'm like, there's no cheating happening. We have an agreement, you and I, you know. So that's when, from that then on, May 2020, I John and I have never slept again together, because from that point I really committed to Derek. Right, once I commit, there's nothing to be done. And throughout our marriage, right, I we came to a point where the only way I will sleep with John is if I don't see his face, right? I have to angle myself to in a way where I don't see his face, because if I see his face, I cannot sleep with him. And we will sleep together only once a month, right? Because when I get my cycle, I get so hormonal. I get very hormonal and very emotional. And I'm a very sensual person. I am, yeah. I have a very strong sexual drive. Yeah, so becoming a celibate took a lot of self-discipline, I had to really reach a point where I was like, something is not right, right? So when I would go through my cycles, my period, and all of the, I get very hormonal, So doing that part, he will poke me and he will trigger me. And he brought it up. He was like, Jan, every time you have your period, we go into a fight. He brought it up. I never noticed. He was like, I think you have PMS or something. And when we get into a fight, through guilt, he'll use guilt. I will feel guilty, and then through that guilt, we will sleep together. So that has been our pattern. And I only realize it now because this is what happened when I came back from Benin in 2019, in August 2019. No, 2020, in August 2020, because that's when Derek and I connected. When I came back, that was the thing, because he realized that I didn't have, this is how he was tracking my period, because he would poke me emotionally. And when I get, I would just keep exploding and reacting. And then he will take pictures of his ripped shirts or scratches when we get physical, and then guilt trip me. And then we'll end up sleeping together and restarting, even though I have a black eye, you see. Yeah, it's only now that I am observing all of these patterns consciously. Like Carl Jung says, unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct you, and you will call it fate. This is it. Unless you face your own shadows, you just keep, behaving a certain way and give up on your life, and let yourself get manipulated by everybody around you. This agony that you are feeling, most people are already dead. They have nothing, no hope in their life, and they anchor themselves in this resentment and these manipulations. And we are all enabling it, because nobody speaks truth. And this is what we need to change. This is how we anchor ourselves in the new earth. It starts with truth. It starts with speaking your truth, no matter how hard it is. This is how you anchor yourself in love. Stop hiding. Stop putting up masks to be nice and pretend, to love people. Yeah, we're gonna expose all of that. Yeah. So in August 2020, when I met with Derek, when I came back, right, by September 2020, I have filed for divorce. So as you all know, I have already shared this. I went through this miscarriage and went through surgery and spent 5 days at the hospital. And as I came back from the hospital, and John and I started working through mediation, right? We had mediation, and of course, his mom paid for it. This is what she does. I'll pay for it, this is what she does. She enables this guy, and throughout our marriage, at a point, I was like, I would love for Anne to go to a bilingual school. And she was like, I'll pay for it. Yeah, so she paid for it. She paid for everything. She paid for the house. She paid for the school fees. She pays for summer camp. She paid for everything. John paid for nothing, So this is what I'm saying. And he will complain that always, this is what I'm saying. People, you see people, lack can be embodied in so many ways. You can embody lack physically. You can embody lack emotionally, and you can embody lack spiritually. Yes, this is where people get misled. We are all chasing money. You chase money and your bank account, and we link success to all of these things, and you see these people with money, and you feel like they cannot embody lack. But nobody embodied lack more than John and his family. They were buried in lack. Yeah. So yeah, this guy complained every time. Since I gave birth, he would be like, you need to go back to work, so we can put Annie in school. I'm like, why you want me to go find a job so I can put our daughter into daycare, uh, so I can pay for daycare. She I am the ultimate nurturer. Why do I need to put my daughter into daycare, go for work and do something I do not love, so I can put my daughter pay someone else to take care of my daughter? I am already doing it. There's nobody better than me, to take care of her. And we will get into this type of argument, and he would tell me, what if something go wrong? What if one of us get in an accident later on? How are we going to pay for it? So at that point, I was like, okay, how much saving do you think we should have for you to be okay and never complain again about money? So he gave me an amount. He was like, we need to have at least this amount in a saving that we never touch. And I said, okay. So I set him up with the 401k. I said, your job, because we used to work together. I said, 401k, we're going to set it up. It's pre-tax and your company matches it. So we're going to set this up, and as we navigate before we know it, we'll have enough saving. So a few years after that, we reached that amount that he said. So as he kept saying, oh, the credit card, he would say the credit card balance is high. And his grandmother used to give us, she used to give us money every year. She used to just give us money. So I could not understand. I'm like, yeah, but somehow you're always complaining about the credit card balance, but he always zeroes out at the end of the year. So these are the type of conversation. You complain about the savings. We have the savings that you wanted. So what is it that you want? So at that point, I used to tell him I would just divorce you on purpose, on principle. You want a zero. You talk always about the credit card balance and everything. So I will give it to you. This is what you want. You get to have the money you want, but I will not be around, and then he will go into it. Do you think, oh, Jan, do you think that everybody loves their work? Do you think everybody loves the job they're doing? Do you think everybody loves their wife? That things he was there. I'm like, yeah, I don't care about anybody else. I want to love the work I do. I want to love my husband. I want to be in love with the partner I am with. There is something out there, and I was getting to the point. You cannot keep doing these things with our kid, and this is not a family. It's just an illusion. You pay for nothing. Your mom pays for everything, and you're just pretending out there, showing off and pretending that presenting this front of a family, but we are not a family. Yeah. So as I filed for divorce in September 2020. What happened? I was like, okay, finally we got out. And as the day I filed for divorce, he was telling me, do you think this guy is gonna leave his family for you? I was like, I wanted a divorce before this guy even came in the picture. And why should he leave his family for me? It's because of how he stands for his family that I am in love with him. You cannot conceive of these things. You have no clue what it takes to be there for your family, right? So I just laughed it off, until Derek started saying the same thing, Yeah. He started saying the same thing to me. Do you want me to leave my kids so another man raises them? Yeah, brought it up anyway. So after September 2020, I threw a divorce party. Yeah, I did. I was so happy. I was free. So I threw a divorce party because I didn't want any of the moms, to, out of allegiance, to reject John or whatever, just like his mom did with his dad. I didn't want that, right? So I threw a divorce party. I invited all the parents from any school, and we had a huge barbecue. And I just wanted to tell them that it's amicable. We're gonna keep planning play dates and birthday parties, and you know, it's a family. We're doing it as a family. There's nobody to hate or reject. Um, and then uh, uh, at that juncture, right, I spoke to Kali. She was the only person. I called her, and I shared with her the what I went through in my marriage with John. You know, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't know you went through all of these things." And we left it there, because what happened is that she started calling me, and telling me that she wants to rent. She found a new job that was far from her home, and she started saying that she wants to lease a car, and that I should help her. She was asking me for money to lease the car, and I was like, dude, I am getting a divorce. You know, I am going through a lot of stuff. I am not taking any child support. I am not taking any spousal support. I'm trying to find work. I am trying to fend for myself. You can't do this. And she was like, please, Jen, you don't understand. I need it. And John, hearing this conversation, was telling me, he was like, Jen, no, don't give her anything. I was like, I would just look at him like, why would you even think I would even enable my sister this way? Yeah, because this is my family, and I will get into these things. This is how they behave throughout my whole marriage, right? Yeah. So John was telling me this, and she was asking me for money, and I exploded at a point. She hung up and she left, and then I called her, and gave her over a summary of what I went through with John, and what I was facing, so she can understand, why I am setting up boundaries, right? And she was like, oh, I didn't know you went through all of these things. I never knew. Yeah, because yeah, my sisters, yeah, it's yeah. So I left it there, right? So in December 2020, right, I went, John and I agreed that he will have the first holiday with Anne, and the follow up year, I will have the holidays with Anne. So throughout with this agreement, I went back to Benin to meet with Derek, right? And as I went back to Benin, um, during the New Year's, I called in uh, to wish Anne a happy New Year. And as I called in, Derek was calling his family. I was calling to wish Anne a happy New Year. John told me that I will not talk to Anne. He will not pass her the phone. And I was like, what? Why? He was like, yeah, you are abandoning your family. You are abandoning her. You ruined everything. So I'm not going to let you talk to her. Yeah. So I was really trying to control myself, because Derek was right there, you know. So I told him that if this is the path he's gonna take, then on my return there will no longer be any mediation. So he passed me Anne, and I spoke to Anne, and he hung up on me. Yeah. So I was holding all of this down while I was navigating certain things with Derek as well, right? And before I went to Benin in December 2020, what happened, I was starting to see certain things were starting to surface with my siblings, right? Kali came back and started asking me, oh, are you going to Benin to meet with Derek? And I was like, that's none of your business. who I date and what I do with my own personal life, I don't share. Yes, I came out and I said, I'm getting a divorce because I fell in love with Derek. I fell in love with someone else, and I've decided to give this love another try, and so I'm filing for divorce. I spoke truth, but I did not go into the details. But she was aware because I did share with her what I went through with John. She was the only person I shared it with after the divorce because she has been reaching out for me to give her money so she can lease a car, right? So I set boundaries by sharing what I was navigating behind closed doors with her. I shared it with nobody else, right? And Chess Kali is renowned. This is what she does. So as I was traveling in December, she started reaching out to me. Oh, are you meeting with Derek? Are you doing this? Who are you meeting up with? What are you doing? And I was like, that's none of your business. Stay out of my personal life. Go live your own fucking life. There's nothing, no drama, no noise to be made here. Because it's from. I'll get into my childhood, all of them. When I was dating Derek when I was 15, how they all latched on. Yeah. So when I went to Benin in December 2020, what happened is that she reached out to Derek. She did not know I was with Derek when she reached out. She reached out to Derek and asked Derek if he was with me. And that's when I got a glimpse of. I was not aware that my sisters were connected to him through social media. I have no social media presence whatsoever at that juncture. I am a very private person. That's why that's the cloak. I don't bond easily. I am very, because I was hanging on by threat. I was very threatened by my environment. It was very frightening to me what the energies that were presented to me through my surrounding. I had not realized yet that it was just a projection of my inner world, my fears, not wanting to face my fears, all of that was getting projected into my environment, right? So she reached out to Derek and to figure out if he was with me. You see, that's how my family started getting exposed. I could not understand why she would do such things because I had set up firm boundaries with her, saying that whatever I'm doing with any man is none of her business, right? To leave Derek alone. So she reached out to Derek to figure out if I was spending time with him in Benin. And as Derek was telling me this, and I saw some of the interaction between the both of them, and they were sending kisses to each other. And I told Derek, it triggered me because my sisters, they've been trying with John, to get his attention through certain behaviors. And I would tell John not to participate in it, I will get into it, later. Like sometimes my sister Kali would come and she would just have like a small towel. She'll be all naked underneath a towel and just sit with us to watch a movie. And, I'll be like, you you are feeling very comfortable, you are not John is not your, yes, he's your brother-in-law, but this is unacceptable. She's like, Jen, stop it. And John will feel uncomfortable and he'll start laughing as well. I will observe certain things and I will tell him, do not participate in it, right? Because I knew exactly where it's coming from and I will get into it. And Cheska would come barely wearing anything and would, they were trying to show me, that whatever I have, they can have too. Yeah. So as I saw some of her interaction with Derek, I snapped and I was like telling Derek, is there something going on with you and my sister? what's going on there? And he was like, no, we're just friends. We there's nothing, And his response comforted me, right? So I let it go, and I just told him, tell her that you are with me. Just tell her it's okay. So he told her yes. Well, he was spending time with me in Benin, and I waited for him to leave the hotel room, and he left. And I called her, and I exploded. And I was like, what the fuck are you calling Derek for? Why are you reaching out to this guy? What is going on? Why are you in my life? What are you looking for? What is going on? Why are you fucking bored? Why don't you focus on your own fucking life? She was like, oh, Jen, I didn't know. I was just, why are you just looking? Why? Why don't you focus on your own relationship? Because, this is what she does. She just makes noise. This is why I always ask for silence. Just make noise, She would date men, and while she's living with someone she's dating, she'll go on other dates with other men. This is the type of energies I was surrounded with. Always saying the most vile things about the people she dates, bored out of her fucking mind, now trying to interact, they're trying to start accessing, create the same pattern with Derek. How is it that after I had my marriage and I went through all of this, now I'm gonna get out of my marriage and fall in love and have a love, and start all over with Derek, So they came out of everywhere, and I exploded, right? That's when, after her, Cheska came and was telling me I blocked Derek, because he cheated on, he's cheating on his family. He has a family, and I was like, wow, they don't know, they're just talking about me. They make it about Derek, but all they're doing is just talking about me. She was just telling me, that I cheated on John, and now she's taking her rage and she's trying to show me, that I've done wrong, and I was, that's when I told her, who the fuck are you? Who fucking cares who you block or who you don't block? I don't give a shit. Go block away. Why does this guy care if you have blocked me because he's sitting? What do you know about this guy's life? You don't know shit. So when this person has spent her whole life cheating on her boyfriend, now she has the audacity to come and tell me, because I have cheated on John and got my divorce, she has no clue what I'm navigating. Now it's coming out of nowhere telling me, that she blocked Derek, So I exploded on her as well, put some things into perspective for her. So she came back and she was like, oh yeah, I unblocked Derek. I am sorry, Jen, Yeah, so that's when my family started making noise, and that was December 2020. So in 2021, the divorce was finalized in February 2021, and that's when the real forging, facing my shadow, really. That's when things started. The shit started hitting the fan, right? Once I got the money for the 401k, I sent money to my dad, and I rented a 2-bedroom apartment close to our home. So, and John, as a family, we can navigate Anne's daily interactions easily, right? So at that juncture, we sat Anne down to tell her that we were getting divorced. So as we sat Anne down in February 2021 and we told her the news, Anne's first reaction, she jumped up and down excited. She was like, because we told her that we're gonna get a divorce and she was gonna have a place with me alone and she's gonna have a place with her dad alone. So she was like, what? I'm gonna have a home just with mom? And I was like, yeah, just with me, but also just with your father. But she was like, yeah, but just with you, mommy? So she started jumping up and down, and she was so happy. And John was like getting mad at her. He screamed at her. He was like, I don't think she's understanding what's happening, you know. And I was like, calm down. So I sat him down and I was like, do you understand what a divorce is? Because a few kids in her classroom at that point had divorced parents, right? And she asked us, what is divorce? She used to ask us, you know. So the way I explained it to her is that the love the parents of that child have has changed into friendship, you know. So they are still a family, but you know, their love just became a friendship. So they are living separate. They're going through a separation, but they still all come together as a family, you know. So it is just a transition in the type of love that was between the parents, but it has nothing to do with the child because the parents still equally love their child. So as she asked that question then, and she understood what a divorce is, because sometimes the kid in her classroom will say, today I'm going to my mommy and I'm going to my daddy, you know. So when John and I asked her the question, do you understand what we mean by a divorce? She was like, yeah, just like you explained to me about my friend, you know. And she gave, you know. And I was like, yes, that's right. So mommy and daddy will no longer live together, but we always love you the same. She was like, yeah, I know. And she kept jumping up and down. She got up, she went to her bedroom and started packing her suitcase. And then she put the suitcase in the closet. She's like, these are all the stuff I'm gonna move into the house with mommy, because I told her, daddy will keep the house here. You will live with daddy here. And I'm gonna find another home for you and I, you know. So she started packing her bag and putting her bag in the closet and saying, this is when mommy and I. So she was ecstatic, you know. But I knew what was coming, right? She was ecstatic, but she was only focusing on living with me alone, right? She was not quite grasping the concept that she will be as well living with her dad. She was not focusing on that, and which was okay. It was fun, you know. At least she had a positive attitude to the response to the divorce, which made things easier for me because I needed to focus on reviving my career, and that was the most frightening thing for me. Having worked uh, for 8 years at this point, at that point,